Hey there. Welcome to Watch Recap, and today, I will recap a family adventure movie called Heidi. Okay, so let's start. An orphan girl Heidi, who has been living with her Aunt Deet for the last 5 years, and was never allowed to go outside, is now being taken to her grandfather in Swiss Alps. Deet has got a job in Frankfurt and she can't take Heidi with her, which is why she have to leave Heidi with her grandpa, who is rumored to be weird and psychopathic. On their way up the hills, Heidi takes off her dress and starts running in her underdress as she's feeling freedom for the first time. They find the house, but Grandpa Alpol is not happy to see them and asks them to leave. Deet pretends to be leaving, but she instead leaves Heidi behind the house, saying she now have to live with her grandpa, and runs away. Alpol realizes this and shouts at Deet to take Heidi with her, but Heidi admits she doesn't want to live with her either. Refusing to take care of the girl, Alpol goes inside the house and locks the door. So Heidi had to sleep in the barn with the goats. The next morning, Alpol gives Heidi some goat milk as breakfast and then takes her to church. The priest assures Alpol that the girl is healthy and pure, and also says that it's his duty to take care of his granddaughter, but Alpol will not change his mind. So the priest says that he will leave for Mayenfield in 3 days and will take Heidi with him to see if the farmers have some work for her. Returning home, Heidi asks if she has to sleep in the barn again, and Alpol says she can sleep wherever she wants. As Alpol has only one chair and one bed, Heidi looks for another place and finds a set of stairs. Climbing up, she finds an attic full of hay. She decides to make this her bedroom, and also admits that she doesn't want to leave this place, but Alpol stays silent. Later, goat herd Peter comes over to pick up the goats, and Alpol gets a chance to send Heidi with him for the day, so he can teach Heidi how to do work in the mountains. He packs some cheese and sausage for Heidi to eat. Heidi goes out with Peter and spends a wonderful day while running the goats, as she never got to live her life this way before. While she was playing around, Peter eats half of her food and blames it on the goats. Suddenly 2 goats starts fighting, and so Peter hits them with a stick to stop the fight, but Heidi asks him to never hit the goats again, and if he do this she will share her food with him every day. Peter happily accepts the offer but requests Heidi to never tell about this to Alpol, as people in town says he killed someone in the past. And when Heidi returns home, she acts weird with her grandpa and says she will sleep in the barn. Alpol realizes she possibly heard the rumors about him, and he asks her what she trusts more, the rumors, or her eyes and ears. Heidi trusts her heart and hugs her grandpa before going to sleep in the attic. Next day, Heidi continues to spend her day with Peter and have fun, while Alpol do some carpentry at home to show her love for Heidi. When Heidi comes home, she is surprised to see a second chair at the table, and Alpol says she can stay with him. Weeks passes by and Peter and Heidi have become good friends. She even cuts her hair to be more comfortable. One day, Peter tells her that he will not come for few months as he will go to school, and they will finally meet again in the springs, and asks her to come to his house sometimes to see him. Heidi wants to go to school too, and even the people of town says the same whenever she goes in the town with her grandpa. But Alpol thinks she won't be able to come down the mountain to attend school in the winters. The days become boring when the winter comes. Alpol makes a wooden bird, but this doesn't bring a smile on Heidi's face, so he then makes a sledge for both of them, and this works. They have fun together sliding down the mountains. Alpol then drops Heidi at Peter's house. Heidi meets Peter's mother and grandmother, but his father is dead. His grandmother is blind and have problems with eating food as she doesn't have much teeth, and so they all have to eat only stale bread. Peter is not doing well at school and asks why he have to study, as handling goats doesn't require knowledge at all. But his mother forces him to continue his studies. When Alpol comes to pick her up, she tells him how lucky she feels to have a grandpa like him. For years Heidi lives a peaceful and happy life with her grandpa and her friend Peter. But one day, Deet appears and she wants to take Heidi with her as she now have a good place for her. But Alpol refuses, saying what's the reason all of a sudden she's caring this much about the girl. Deet explains she only left Heidi here because back then she didn't had any choice, but can't convince Alpol, so Deet pretends to leave but instead goes to find Heidi playing with Peter. She tells her to come with her, but when Heidi says she wants to stay with Grandpa, Diet tells her that Alpol also wants her to leave as it is the best for her, and so Heidi agrees to go with her. Peter is also upset seeing her leave. When Alpol notices Heidi isn't with Peter, he quickly realizes what happened, and rushes to the town, but it's too late as Diet has left the town with Heidi. The people of town also makes fun of Alpol as his grandchild also left him alone. In Frankfurt, Heidi is taken to the Seesman mansion, where she meets the butler Sebastian, the maid Tinette, and the governess Rottenmeier. Rottenmeier isn't happy to see Heidi as she looks like a wild kid to her who have no manner, but Diet reminds her this is what they asked for, a child who is innocent and unspoiled to play with Clara. Diet is paid for the girl and she then leaves. Heidi meets Clara, who is wheelchair-bound, and they quickly likes each other, and when Heidi accidentally pushes Clara's chair against the table, Clara lies to Rottenmeier saying it was her fault to save Heidi. Rottenmeier thinks Heidi needs to learn a lot of things in order to be a good friend for Clara. They give her a proper bath and good-looking clothes. They teach her table manners and royal etiquettes. Heidi also needs to study with Clara, and she shocks everyone when she says she can't read. Rottenmeier wants to get rid of Heidi, but she can't do this until Clara's father comes back from his trip. So for now, they have to teach Heidi how to read while continuing Clara's lessons. Heidi quickly adapts to the rules but still behaves like before. She still prefers mountains and hills over a big royal house. And whenever she gets a chance, she hides bread rolls in her pockets. She and Clara become close friends, and so Clara shares with Heidi about what happened to her after her mother died. She fell so ill that she lost the ability to walk and was so lonely and felt caged in this house as her father is always on business trips, until Heidi came. One afternoon, Heidi asks Sebastian why she can't see mountains outside the window. Sebastian says she can see the mountains from the tallest tower in the town. So Heidi sneaks out the house with Clara as she is not allowed to go outside. They find the tallest tower, so Clara waits outside while Heidi goes as high as possible, but is disappointed as she still can't see mountains. Clara is nervous outside but becomes happy when she finds a woman selling cute kittens and decides to buy them all. Back at the house, Rottenmeier panics as she can't find the girls and sends all the servants outside to find them. It is Sebastian who finds them and they quickly hides the kittens before he could see them. Returning home, Rottenmeier tries to scold them, but sneezes so bad because of her allergies. The sneeze causes the cat to panic and come out, which scares Rottenmeier so much that she climbs onto the furniture while everyone laughs at her. So as a punishment, Heidi isn't allowed to eat, instead she have to face the wall while everyone eats. Rottenmeier threatens her that she will lock her inside a room with rats if this happens again. Heidi gets angry, she takes all the bread rolls she saved for Peter's grandmother and decides to leave. Rottenmeier stops her saying she should be grateful for receiving good clothes and food. But the only thing that makes Heidi sad is seeing Clara crying. Since that day, Heidi lost her smile. Clara doesn't leave her room, while Tinette explains Clara is sick because of Heidi, which hurts Heidi even more, so she visits Clara and tells her that she wasn't leaving because she doesn't like Clara but because she misses her grandpa. Clara understands but still wants her to stay as she have no one except Heidi. Clara then begins to take classes again, while Heidi still finds it hard to read. Few days later, Clara's father Mr. Seesman comes with Clara's grandmother, who Rottenmeier isn't happy to see. Clara is happy to see them. Both Clara's father and grandmother are happy to see Heidi. Mr. Seesman thinks Clara is looking happy because he got her a new friend. But Rottenmeier tries to change his mind, saying Heidi doesn't know how to read and behave. However, grandmother would rather see it with her own eyes than to trust Rottenmeier's words. At night, grandmother reads Heidi a bedtime story but doesn't finish it as she wants Heidi to read it and finish it. Heidi says she never learned to read as Peter said reading is useless. Grandmother then tells her that she must not believe everything she hears. Heidi wants to know the end of the story, and so she puts more efforts to read and practice. Next day, grandmother tells Mr. Seesman that Heidi is a good girl and will learn to read and write if taught correctly. Grandmother also knows Heidi doesn't like this life and wants to go back. Mr. Seesman says they can't let Heidi go as she makes Clara happy. But grandmother tells him he only wants Heidi to stay because this reduces his guilt of always leaving his daughter alone for business. But then, all of the house servants starts to hear some strange noises around the house and always finds the door open. They thinks it's a ghost, but Mr. Seaman doesn't believe them. As Heidi continues to read and practice more with the book grandmother gave her, she finally reads everyone a whole story. The teacher takes the whole credit and Mr. Seaman thinks now Heidi is suitable to live in the house. Which makes Clara very happy, but Heidi is still upset and she cries every night before falling asleep. But one night, when Mr. Seaman was playing a chess game with the doctor, they suddenly hear the strange sound the servants were talking about, and immediately takes out their guns. But to their surprise, it is Heidi who is sleepwalking. She comes down every night, opens the door, stares at the moon and then returns to sleep on her bed like she used to sleep in the barn. The doctor finds that she is freezing, so Mr. Seaman tries to find a blanket but instead finds a new pile of bread rolls. The doctor wakes up Heidi and asks her if she is in pain. Heidi says her chest hurts. After this, the doctor explains to Mr. Seaman that Heidi is homesick and the only way to cure her is by letting her go back from where she came from. At first, Mr. Seaman refuses, but then he spends the night thinking about his wife and decides to let Heidi go back. So he explains this to Clara the next morning, but Clara gets mad as she doesn't want Heidi to leave. Heidi is happy to hear that she will be sent back home, but she feels sad for Clara and tries to talk to her, but Clara is upset and won't talk to her. When the time comes for Heidi to leave, the servants prepare a basket full of bread rolls and other food items she can take to the mountains. She gives her wooden bird to Mr. Seaman saying she will visit Clara one day. As soon as Heidi leaves, Rottenmeier sighs saying finally there will be peace in the house. But then she turns around and finds a cute kitten who makes her feel uncomfortable again. But Tinette picks up the kitten and says she will call her Heidi. Reaching the town, the first thing Heidi did was to take off her boots and reunite with her friend. She goes to his house with him and gives them the food she brought with her. Then she runs up the mountains, and also takes off her dress and runs in her underdress to hug her beloved grandpa. She returns to the life she previously had with Grandpa and Peter. But now Alpol allows her to attend school, so both of them settles in a house in the town for winters. Her new teacher is even more strict than this one, and sometimes there are physical punishments for misbehaving. Everyone laughs at Heidi when she confesses that she wants to be a writer in future. But now she reads well and even tries to help Peter, who hates to study. She writes a letter to Clara saying how bad she misses her and asks her to visit her. Clara feels bad reading the letter as she didn't even said goodbye to her. So grandmother arranges some people and together they take Clara up the mountain. The girls are happy to see each other, while grandmother asks Alpol if Clara could stay for a few days and even offers him money. Alpol happily says yes but refuses to take the money, saying Clara is a guest. This time, Heidi teaches Clara about the life in mountains. Clara begins to wear only her underdress, they sleep in hay with goats, watch shooting stars, they eat and play Togler. Which makes Peter extremely jealous. He even refuses to play with them when Heidi invites him, and goes to herd the goats alone. One morning, Peter arrives before the girls woke up and sees the wheelchair outside. Out of jealousy he throws the wheelchair down the hill. As soon as Alpol finds this, he realizes who did this. He carries Clara on his back and they follow the goat herding path. Clara enjoys the view, while Alpol scolds Peter for doing this to her and asks him to look after the girls for the whole day. A beautiful butterfly sits on Clara's feet, but it flies away. Clara stands up to catch the butterfly and everyone is shocked seeing her stand on her own. But it's still hard for her to walk properly, so with the help of Peter and Heidi she continues to practice walking. Later, grandmother and Mr. Seaman comes to pick up Clara. Mr. Seaman is upset how grandmother could left her sick daughter in this dirty place. But is left speechless when Clara comes up to him walking on her own feet. He hugs her and they all are happy that finally she will be able to walk. Later, grandmother gives Heidi a notebook and a pen so she can write stories in it, and tells her to ignore negative comments as one should do what makes them happy. With a tight hug she says goodbye to her friend Clara. Heidi then returns to her normal life with Peter and Alpol. But now she takes her notebook with her every day to write stories in it. This is where the movie ends. Subscribe to the channel if you love movies, like and share the video, we appreciate it. See you again.